Now I would like to welcome our esteemed speaker, Professor Dr. Arvind Natu sir. I would like to call upon Dr. Sachin Singh ji to say a few words about the 4 days webinar. Sachin ji is working as project scientist at IIT Delhi and he is the convener of today's webinar. I request Sachin ji to share his thoughts.
धन्यवाद प्रफुल्ल जी। एजुकेशन समाज का वो हिस्सा है, एजुकेशन समाज का वो हिस्सा है जो मनुष्य को सामाजिक बनाता है। बेहतर एजुकेशन पॉलिसीज राष्ट्र निर्माण निर्धारित करती हैं कि विश्व पटल पर ग्लोबल स्टेज में राष्ट्र कहाँ होगा। आज साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में युग परिवर्तन के समय पर राष्ट्र ने एजुकेशन पॉलिसीज लागू की हैं, तो जरूरी है हम इसके तर्क और दूरगामिता को सही से समझें। जैसे कि जानते हैं कि रोटी, कपड़ा और मकान की राह एक बेहतर मनुष्य से होकर गुजरती है और शिक्षा पद्धति ही निश्चित कर सकती है हम उसे किस प्रकार और कितने समय में स्वनिर्भरता से प्राप्त कर सकते हैं। स्वनिर्भरता के लिए एक युग निर्माण करने वाले युवा भारत बनाने के लिए एक बड़े परिवर्तन की आवश्यकता है, जो बेसिक शिक्षा से लेकर रिसर्च शोध तक की पढ़ाई को कनेक्टेड डॉट्स की तरह जोड़े। आज हमारे बीच प्रोफेसर अरविंद नातू जी हैं, जो एक प्रसिद्ध ऑर्गेनिक केमिस्ट हैं और आईसर कोलकाता के बीओजी मेंबर भी हैं। हमारे साथ इसी उसमें प्रक्रम में कल भी एक माननीय अतिथिगण होंगे जो इस एजुकेशन पॉलिसी पर प्रकाश डालेंगे। तो ये हमारा सौभाग्य है जो हमें उनके विचार कौटिल्य सेंटर फॉर पब्लिक पॉलिसी मंच पर सुनने को मिलेंगे। धन्यवाद प्रफुल्ल जी, धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद सचिन जी। Now I call upon Advocate Ritwik Joshi ji to brief us about the Kautilya Center for Public Policy. Ritwik ji is practicing advocate and he was working as convener for Think India Maharashtra chapter. He has completed his graduation from Symbiosis Law College, Pune. Now I request Ritwik ji to share his thoughts.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Praful ji. I hope my voice is clear, loud, and continuous.
Yes, Ritwik ji.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Praful ji. Our esteemed guest for evening, Professor Arvind Natu sir, and I welcome all the participants watching our webinar on various social media platforms like Zoom, and watching us through social media platforms of News Bharati, on their Facebook channel as well as YouTube channel. I welcome you all to this first session of our webinar. This happens now. This not only is our first session of our webinar, this is the first program organized by Kautilya Center for Public Policy. And now I find it very important to tell the audience the idea behind launching Kautilya Center for Public Policy. What is the idea behind Kautilya Center for Public Policy? Why we have launched it? So Kautilya Center for Public Policy is launched with an idea to create a platform for academicians, professors, technocrats, bureaucrats, students, public policy enthusiasts, and members of the civil society who want to contribute positively, constructively, and actively in national development. Now, obviously, I'm going to answer a few very simple questions, that is why, when, where, how, and beginning with the name. Why the name Kautilya? As we all know, Kautilya, as we know him as Chanakya and Vishnugupta as well. Kautilya, known as Chanakya and Vishnugupta, was a professor of political science in ancient India. He guided Chandragupta Maurya in founding the Maurya Empire. He parallelly authored a treatise on the science of administration, wherein he compiled the ancient Indian political thought called as the Arthashastra. Now, the Mauryan Empire used to was governed and administered using these principles mentioned in this book. And as we all know, the Mauryan Empire achieved the heights of glory and prosperity and achieved the status of a global empire, a global regime, a well known regime in the sense of military, economy, culture, and all other aspects prevalent at that time. Consequently, the name Kautilya becomes synonymous with administration, governance, political thought, and philosophy across the not only across the our continent but across the globe. Uh, Now, and it's not like that ancient Indian political thought, Kautilya or Chanakya is the originator or the creator of ancient Indian political thought. We have the Shanti Parva in Mahabharata, the conversation between uh, Bhishma Pitama and Yudhishthir about the facets of administration, about the facets of governance. We have the concept of Ramraj. We have the ancient sloka of Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavatu, which means that let there be happiness, peace, prosperity, and abundance for everyone, for all the living things on this world. So India has a long history of ancient political thought. India achieved its pinnacles of glory when it was administered by this local and Indianized thought. However, after 9th century, India faced a series of invasions from the west, like the by the Mughals, by the Turks, the Afghans. Territories of India were being governed by these invaders, and they not only tried to make India their economic appendage, but also made India, but also tried to supplant their value system, their political thought, and their culture on India. This was the first time India was being governed. India's political masters were alien to the nature, the character, the culture of our country. This led to large-scale despotic implementation of policies which were not beneficial to India. Uh, our freedom fighters and millions of Indians expected that this situation will change after the freedom movement, after our independence in 1940. However, uh, uh, however, that wasn't the case. India India started being governed by philosophies and principles which had nothing to do with India. India was being governed by principles which were perhaps again alien to herself. That was precisely the reason why, in spite of having abundance of resources, natural as well as human, having the technical capacity and the vigor to work, India couldn't live up to her expectation. Kautilya Center for Public Policy wants to precisely address this problem. We want to create a platform. We want to invite the thought leaders. We want to invite the academicians. We want to invite professors. We want to invite public policy enthusiasts and students, and ask them to join our platform and take positive role, play a constructive role in development of our country. We believe that we at Kautilya Center for Public Policy believe that Indian problem have Indian solutions. Uh, I often say that I often say that uh, an operating system of Samsung or operating system of Samsung will not work very well on an iPhone, and iOS will not work very well on a Samsung phone. For the optimum working of that phone, iOS should be installed on an iPhone, and Samsung's operating system should work on the Samsung itself. That's the precisely case with India on a larger sense. If India wants to become a world leader, it should be governed by the policies that are originated in India, that have Indian essence in those policies. And that's why we at Kautilya Center will give will assist the policymakers and the appropriate authorities in giving India apt practical, feasible, India-centric, and Indianized solutions to Indian problems. And how we are going to do it? We are going to do it by conducting webinars like this, wherein we are inviting stakeholders across all the spectrums revolving around the education field, taking their opinion, finding the positive aspects as well as the negative aspects, addressing the issues in a positive and constructive sense. That is our primary job. Another aspect will be to conduct task force on policy making, to make study circles, to create policy awareness among students, policy awareness amongst the uh, youth as well as the public policy enthusiasts, as well as people who want to positively and constructively participate in national development. That's precisely the idea behind starting Kautilya Center for Public Policy. Just a short note, we as a country are at a crossroads. We have to take very harsh yet right decisions if we want to see our country a world leader in the materialistic sense as well as the spiritualistic sense. And Kautilya Center for Public Policy is our humble attempt to unite and give voice to those Indians who want to see their country become a world leader, and to want to see lives of Indians getting better day by day. And I hope I have made myself I hope I have been able to explain the idea behind starting Kautilya Center for Public Policy very clear. And if you have any doubts, you can always contact us at our email ID. Thank you very much, Prafulji. Yes, over to you, Praful.
Thank you, Ritvik ji. It was indeed a brief introduction to Kautilya Center for Public Policy. Now I call upon Shri Gaurisha ji to brief us about the Center for Education and Social Studies. Gaurisha ji.
Thank you, Ji. Yeah.
Gaurisha ji has 12 years teaching experience at postgraduate level teaching and management subjects. Sir is working as Deputy Director of Center for Education and Social Studies. He has worked as Chief Consultant in the Technical Secretariat of Committee to draft National Education Policy. I would like to request Sri Gaurisha ji to share his thoughts.
Thank you, Professor. It's my pleasure to be in this particular platform, which is having a series of sessions or lectures on the national education policy. First of all, I thank Kautilya Center for Public Policy to giving us this opportunity to be part of the program. So we are happy to be associated with Kautilya Center for Public Policy in organizing this particular event. I think much relevant today and all over India. It is much people are discussing, or stakeholders of education are discussing about new education policy. Our Center for Educational and Social Studies started way back in 2006. It was previously started by Vidya Shikshana Seva Trust, which is very old, 35-year-old trust. Later, Center for Educational and Social Studies became an independent organization, so working in the area of education since 2006. For more than 14 years, reading and policy advocacy, very much focused on education sector. Actually, we engage in many activities in the domain of education. Over a decade and position ourselves to meet the current challenges in the society, keeping education as a focal point. So, the vision of the organization is to social transformation through and with education. So, we engage in various research of the policy and successfully
Gaurisha ji, sorry to interrupt. Sir, your voice is breaking. Namaste, Gaurisha ji. Am I audible? Gaurisha ji will join us soon. We will wait for him for 2 minutes.
No, am I audible now? Am I audible?
Sir, your voice is not clear, sir.
Okay. One minute. Yeah. Hope is it clear now? To some extent.
Yes,
Is it
sir.
fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There is heavy rain here. So issue also. So Center for Education Social Studies is basically an organization working in the area of education. So we involved in various research and survey research, personally completed several projects in the area of education. We conducted a lot in the various issues on education. So we are this national education policy we have taken as a mission. So from 2019 when it is released first, we have done many such dissemination programs all over the country physically that time. But now doing this kind of webinars all over the country in association with many such organizations, like-minded organizations. So we are into dissemination of this policy. We are taking it as a mission, and also slowly a team which, for to help the various institutions at university level as well as the small colleges. So how to go about? What is the roadmap? How to implement this policy in the at the micro level? So we are working closely with government agencies and also the institutions to helping out them, mentor them to build the capacity for institutions and for faculty to implement actually. So CES has a wing called India Studies, Indian Management or Bharatiya Management, and both they are working in school and higher education. We have a very unique management research center which is recognized by Vision Technological University basically to work in the on Indian management. Dr. M. Sridhar is our organization. We have and both we are working in school and higher education. We have a lot of MOU and Dr. M. Sridhar is the president of the area of education. Dr. M. Sridhar bodies work in the area of education, research, capacity building, and advocacy. For more information, I request all of you to visit our website, Center for Education and Social Studies. That will basically give all and policy advocacy. Visit our website, Center for Education and Social Studies. Activities or programs or research or whatever that. So we welcome them. So we even provide all of internship and project work for the students and research scholars. So anybody who is interested to join hands with us in the domain of those who are interested to work in the domain of education. So that's willing to put on that. So we welcome them and internship and project work for the scholars. If they're interested to join hands with our institutions. So I thank Professor Ji and Kautilya Center for Public Policy for the opportunity.
Thank you, Gaurisha ji. Now I would like to introduce our esteemed speaker for the first session, Professor Dr. Arvind Natu, sir. Sir is presently Chairman of Board of Directors, IISER, KOLKATA. Sir has a vast experience of teaching and Sir is associated with educational reforms at various levels. Sir is involved in Indo-German collaborative activities in science, technology and education. Sir has been awarded Cross Border of Merit, the highest civilian award for foreigners by the German President. Today, Sir would guide us with respect to journey, philosophy and principles behind national education policy. I welcome Professor Dr. Arvind Natu sir, and now I would request Professor Natu sir to share his thoughts with us.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
You're
Yes,
audible.
sir.
Okay.
We'll just do. Sorry. I'm very sorry to interrupt, sir. Prafulji, we have been receiving messages that voice was cracking. I hope Professor Nathu's voice is very clear and continuous. If not, the
Yes,
participant.
if there is some kind of disturbance, we will solve the problem.
Okay. Yes.
Should I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Namaste. First of all, let me thank Kautilya Center and Sera for giving me this opportunity to interact with you. I have been involved in the area since last 1 or 2 years and have been gone through several drafts and all of them. So what I'll do is first, I'll give some brief history. Then we'll think just why this was required at all, why this policy was required. Then I'll go into the little brief of what are the major points that have been issued. Since there are several other speakers in the webinar, I don't want to unnecessarily touch upon their point by giving several details. They'll be able to guide it through. The earlier, our policy was introduced somewhere in 1986. And before that also several times we have done the education policy declaration. This 1986 policy was only amended once, and that is in 1992 when they have made the right of the children, right of education, RTE, and compulsory education till from 6 years onwards, and so on. So we had taken several education policies since our independence, but probably what I had noted is there are hardly any changes. Those changes would have come, like say basic changes like right to education and all the things. There were just cosmetic changes, taking up and down and down and up and right to left and left to right, those kind of things. Nobody has attempted to change the structure by itself. In education policy, it constitutes mainly the three things. One is the academics, second is the organization, and the third one is the various level. Since education is a state subject, so state and center together. Up till now, only very, very, as I said, cosmetic changes were done. They were talking of dissolving this, dissolving that. But due to several pressures, or I don't know what are the reasons beyond my scope, it has really not worked out anything very well. If I make a very bold statement that what we had done in 1835 by Lord Macaulay, we were still following the same. At least in terms of academics, reliability, and all other things. Let me share on a lighter note. I went to a college in, I don't want to say where, I went to a college and took the photograph of that audience. They said, why you took the photographs of the laboratory? Then I said, here 50 years back, I was working and the benches are same. So I want to just take a picture. The demonstrator was a very nice fellow. He said, don't worry, sir, not only the benches, but handled by the non-academic organization in between, bureaucrats, everything was mixed up. And it was allowed to continue like that for no reason, we don't know. It was in 2015, there was a committee led by T. Subramaniam, again, a very notable secretary at that time. He was given a task of drafting a new policy, or the think process should start. Then it got really momentum in 2016 when Kasira Rangan committee came into the existence, and they were given a mandate of giving the draft of the education policy. By 2019, they have done extremely good work. I must appreciate the whole committee who has really taken efforts not to leave a single thing to anybody and done the job. After that, in 2020, that is of late, government has accepted, the cabinet has accepted, and now depending on the further development, we'll go to that. What is so new about this? There is a see-through change. Number one is real an Indian model of education. Number two, there's a clear-cut distinction between academics and the organizational structure. Number three, it reflects really into the India. It takes into consideration the Indian rich tradition, which was just discarded earlier by considering it to be scientifically baseless and all other things. So this was really revolutionary. In one more thing, it was revolutionary. Earlier, when the policies were deciding, nobody, all the stakeholders of the education, which is very, very backbone of the country, were not considered. This is the first time that more than 2.5 lakh suggestions received, many of them very constructive suggestions from a very, very unexpected corners like panchayat samitis and all other things. And all the stakeholders, the student, the teacher, the organization, science administrators in this country, they all came together and drafted this policy. So I'm joking as saying this is a completely democratic, first democratic policy, education policy of this country. What was some of the figures were very much disturbing. Our gross enrollment ratio was as a very, very low figure. That means students who take the education from first, the dropout ratio was very, very high. Secondly, there are about 3 crores of the students who start the education, but they are dropped out in between somewhere. So somebody need to take care of them. And with the 2 aims, wow, one of the best of this policy, it has kept the practical aims or the practical time limits for everything. For example, by 2030, they need a 100% gross involvement ratio. By 2040, according to World SDG 4, we should be in the best education sector. In about 15 years' time, by 35, we should lose we'll completely eliminate the TERS affiliation, and so on and so on. So everybody has, the commission or the committee has realized that it is a long-term thinking and not a short one, should be finished within no time. So it has a completely, I must say, integrated and exclusive policy. Probably for the first time, we are coming across this. Okay. Wonderful. But what are the current situations? Why it was necessary? It could have been postponed. Since anyhow, after 1986, it was never formulated. Why? What was the thing? So there were several things you have. First thing, the scope of knowledge has been expanded. I should not use the word expanded. I must use the word exploded. It is really exploded, especially with the introduction of the new technology, especially the internet, which is now foregone as a routine thing, artificial intelligence, big data scanning, and machine learning, and so on and so forth. So these abilities are a must for the new era if the India really wants to enter in. Fortunately, we have a rich tradition. Indians are, as everybody knows, they are the top world leaders in terms of networking or the computer science and so on and so forth. So that was a benefit. Second thing is we are facing a big challenge in terms of environmental problems. It is a very thin line, and the picture printed of the environment versus progress is not a correct one. And we need to consider, we need to rethink about the inclusion of the environmental changes that are coming up, and we need to think about climate changes, temperature increasing. These were not the words that were known 20 years back. And if you want to make a generation which is capable of accepting any challenges in the later century of this later century, then we need to develop this. We need to have skills. We need to have degree holders. We need to have academicians, and so on and so forth. So climate changes was one. Then the pollution. These were the new words: pollution, carbon footprints, greener aspects of chemistry, or the green science. These are the new terms that have been introduced, and our education system must be capable or capable of developing the skills for that. So this was the situation. Another change was in terms of energy. In terms of energy, the conventional energy forms are going out, regeneration of energy, whether it is solar, now electrical, or whatever it is, a form of energy that we are going to have, we need to consider. We need experts. We need people to work. They should know at all level from first standard to the top. What are the challenges in terms of energy? We must have also the problems of food, sanitation, water, and broad-based new skills. So these are the 3 or 4 areas where our present generation system is unable or less successful, let me put it, unable to, less successful in grabbing the thing. Okay, now we must add a new dimension to it. That is the current pandemic. What should be the different technology that are need to be explored? And these should be included in a one statement or the one policy given by the government. And that's why this new education policy had to be introduced. There are 2 several lacunas in the earlier system. I should not say lacunas, but less attention was paid. First thing is somehow segregation of the subjects, even in terms of physics, chemistry, maths, biology, and science, arts. So these were taught as a single head, and the world is heading towards a multidiscipline. That means if somebody wants to study science, doesn't mean that he cannot study arts, cannot study humanities. So these were the lacunas, and the world is really marching ahead toward the totally multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary approach of teaching and studying. So we must be prepared, ready. So these were the one of the things. Second thing, important. I don't say that we should not have content. We must have content. There is no doubt about it. But how much you learn is not important. How you learn is the important. So this subtle difference in terms of content, suppose that instead of 20 chapters, if you just touch upon 20 chapters without going into details and how to learn and a proper methodology, probably one or last chapter can be done, content can be reduced, but at the same time, methodologies, new teaching methodology, how to deal with all things have been taken care. It is, I just give you one example. In this country, if you want to teach till 12th, you have to have a Bachelor of Education degree. But in the college, once you go for the FYBS in college, medical college, engineering college, you don't need any pedagogy. That means today's pass out can become a teacher tomorrow in any of the colleges. Is it true? Whether he'll be able to deal it. Is it not necessary that he should go into the some pedagogic training? So those all things, changing scenarios have been very exclusively taken into consideration into this, and various methods of education. Probably the other speakers will take care. Innovative, inquiry based, discussion based. Only crux of this is students will have to ask more questions. Students will be encouraged to ask more questions, and that is then in the present situation, students has to only answer. He doesn't have to put any questions. If they are put in the question, they are in trouble. So here in the new generation, you are supposed to ask more questions. Probably more weightage will be given to how you ask the question, how many questions you ask, and so on and so forth. So that has been completely taken. One more see-through change that was essential, that we have our education was moving towards more or less a theoretical or the bookish. There is no other inclusion. Now there are several things that are coming up. For example, a man becoming engineer doesn't have any experience of 6 months or so, even before that. So there is no vocational training. There is no skill development built into the structure. Well, there are different schools to do that, but well integrated in the structure of education itself, there were no vocational training. There were no skill development. It was unnecessarily developed into curricular and extracurricular and social curricular and all other things. So this is probably the first effort to bring in those. So that was one of the best point that is this thing. Secondly, what it has done and which is the best thing is literacy, minimum order of literacy. Nowadays, if you, I don't want to criticize, but now even if you go to 8th standard, a student who is passing or just going up to 8th standard, there's no minimum literacy. So this is probably first time the education policy has decided what is the minimum literacy in terms of language and in terms of numbers. That is what is the basic mathematics that is required at 3rd standard, 5th standard, whatever it is. So that was also a very, very important point, and I feel that is a very important point to go in. So, and as I said, we have never paid respect, deserving respect to the teachers. We call Guru, we call celebrate Teachers' Day, we call Gurus and do Guru Pujan and all other things. But do we really practice it? Because it was never integrated into the structure of the, or in, not in terms of infrastructure, but structure, the place of a teacher. If you just think of the place of a teacher right now, if I get sufficient time, I'll go through some of the features of the teacher that is anticipated or envisaged or planned in a new system. So that is one thing. And the last, but not least, when we say teachers we greet them, we say, oh, you are the sculptor of the new century, you create good students and all. But do we have the encouraging environment? Do we have conducive environment for the teachers to be really called as teachers? I'm sorry, but not to the anticipated level it is present. So that is also one of. Last but not least, we are sitting in the gold mine of traditional knowledge. Why we call it traditional knowledge? I'll call that as not tradition. I'll call it as our knowledge. What is our knowledge? It can be a physics, it can be a chemistry, it can be a mathematics, it can be an astronomy, it can be an arts, it can be a literature, linguistics, and all other things. We had Kautilya, as you said. There were a lot of philosophers. There were Kanath for chemistry, Aryabhat. We just talk of them, but have we really tried to make use of this in terms of, in the frame, of course, of modern sciences? I don't want to underestimate the views, because on this, there are completely two views. One generation belongs to the fields that there is no science before Newton and Einstein. And the second group says that everything was available under the sky in those days also. I don't want to enter into the controversy. But whatever science, we can put it in the format, in the modern frame of science, maybe a little bit flexible. But those kind of, we had Nalanda, we had Takshashila, we had all the rich heritage in terms of herbal this thing. But are we using them? Are we using them in term by using the modern methods, the analytical methods? The answer is no. Perhaps this implementation of this new education policy, which envisages the reach our knowledge, or the gold mine on which we are sitting, to exploit that to the fullest extent, to take our Indian student to the world level. So the student anticipated who will come out, how he will be. On one side, he will be excellent in academics. He will have better character. He will ethically, he will have ethics trained, because the education is not only the bookish education or what you learned in the lab, but outside the window. He will think rational. This is especially using the our own knowledge, compassionate and caring for the student, because he has to ultimately care for the society, because ultimate aim of education is to meet the societal needs. So he will do that. This is on one side. On the other side, he will have gainful employment, means to achieve money, and now a new dimension has been given to give this in terms of smart startups or other things. So that will also take into consideration that you should not be only job seekers, but you should be also the job givers. So a student perfectly in this is not being produced, the present education system was not able to produce. And the changing scenario all have been accommodated, even the pandemic situation, which because of which we are now facing only through the cloud and so on. So if you want to really achieve, what are the real things that we need to do? What are the basic principles? I don't want to go into the details as Ritvik or Sachin or they had told me that I must go into the basically the structural part. I don't want to go into details. But one thing, there are certain basic principles that are being followed. It is reorganizing and identifying and foreseeing the unique capability of each student. The present situation, 35%, 65%, and 90% students are governed by the same rule, same education, same period, and unfortunately, same examination. So their capabilities are never tested. And this also taking into consideration the teachers, the parents, and everything, that there is something for everybody's capability. For example, in a 9th standard or so, if the teachers or the parents and students feel that he should not go into the conventional courses, there are options open of entering into the vocational course. Even during his school days, he doesn't have to wait to pass 9, 12 and then go to some course. No, while doing the school courses also, he can really try out whatever he wants. So in a way, there is something for every student. Every student's capabilities will be identified, and he will be given the training in the desired format. Then second is, as I talked to you, in this respect, I would like to also bring to your notice, a special care has been taken to the special children, with the children with special abilities, earlier called as mentally retarded. There's no Divyangs is the best word for that, visually impaired. So there is something for everything. Then it takes also care of the physical problems. You know of the problems of the, say, Northeast, North Kashmir. Same rules cannot be applied. Same policy cannot be applied. So there is a complete flexibility to cater to the capabilities of every student and take out the best out of it. It could be woman, it could be a minority, it could be tribal, it could be anything. If the special attention is required, proper attention will be certainly given under this, so there is no problem. Then third thing, and I would say essence of this thing, is the flexibility that is associated. What is the flexibility? Flexibility in terms of academics. For example, student now can choose the science as well as the science as well as the arts courses under any degrees. Earlier we used to be in mathematics and so on and so forth. Now there are certain courses which you can probably study physics and music together if you want to do. Right now, music, drama, arts, painting, everything has been sidelined as extracurricular activities. No more. Everything is now included into that, and flexibility is dynamic. You can study whatever you want, at whatever level you want, and which is suitable to you. Leave the course, come back to the course. You are at completely freedom to you. This is probably the so-called student-centric education. जिसे हिंदी में कहते हैं विद्यार्थी केंद्रित शिक्षा. So this is one of the very, very important. Right now, student does not have any stake, any choice, he has been bound by certain, this number of seats there, that number of seats there, then so on and so forth. So that things will go, and flexibility will come. Again, corollary to that, there is no hard separation between arts and science and so on and so on. This is right now, why leave aside arts and science? In the science itself, in the chemistry, for which is my subject, inorganic chemistry, they don't talk to organic. Chemist as such doesn't talk to biologist. Biologist doesn't talk to physicist to start with. And the biggest challenge is in 11th standard, the biology and mathematics have been completely separated, as if they are the enemies of each other. Whereas world is going towards taking completely different terms in terms of biological mathematics, mathematical physiology, and so on. So this has been completely there. You can take any course. Flexibility is the name for everything. Then most important is the new creation of new institutions which are multidisciplinary. For example, if you are studying agriculture, and if somebody wants to study painting, he's not allowed. So there will be multidisciplinary universities. I would like to again bring it to you. It will be multidisciplinary as well as the interdisciplinary sub things going. And if you follow all these things, these multidisciplinary universities will really give the holistic education across science, social sciences, arts, humanities, and why not sports, music, and so on and so on. So these creation of this multi-dimensional or the multidisciplinary university is one of them. We had too much compartmentalized the education as on today, which should not be the case. So that has been done. Then unfortunately, if you ask any student why you are studying, the only answer given is for the examination, especially during school education or 12th standard education. And they are achieving that by doing rote learning. There is no introduction of conceptual education in this rat race of admissions and these gross things. This has been completely being taken away. So now the stress will be given on the conceptual education and not on the how you have learned. Sorry, now how much you have learned. How you have learned is the most important thing that is coming up. It will also nurture the creativity. This is one thing that has never built in our school or higher education. If a student has a particular interest and if he's ready to work hard beyond the school hours or the college hours, why he should not be given an opportunity to nurture his creativity? Why he cannot do the experiment? Why it should be routinely channelized only through this channel? No, he should be given proper encouragement. His creativity should be completely nurtured, and critical thinking should be. Right now, we are in the phase of our education has become a spoon feeding system. Probably I'll come later on a little bit on the pandemic situation. At that time, I'll talk on this. But we have really come right now on there is no critical thinking. There is no development of analytical capabilities, taking decision capacities. Everything is spoon-fed because there is no choice for the students. If you give the choice, then he'll be able to do better. So conceptual thinking, nurturing of creativity, and last one in this area is the development of analytical capability. जिसे हिंदी में निर्णय क्षमता कहा जा सकेगा, वो उसी को बढ़ावा दिया जाएगा. Human values have never been a part or just a formal part for the sake of it. But this time, a special emphasis has been given on ethics, human values, constitutional values, like say empathy, respect for other, cleanliness, courtesy. These are the basic requirements and which nobody has thought of. If the cleanliness, this is described somewhere in some part of Constitution, and forget about it. Just take one aspect, cleanliness. If we adopt this at the school level, the minimal certain level of cleanliness, I think we have half done. We have achieved our half of the goal. So there should be empathy, respect for public property. We don't have. Look at the bus seats that we are using. Then comes the scientific temper or rational thinking, what I mentioned. There's no scientific temper. There's because the tendency of asking the question is going down. The rational thinking will certainly come up if you ask the question how, when, how, why not, and so on and so forth. That art we have forgotten. And last one is the responsivity, pluralism, equality, justice. These are all big words. Let us not bother about it. But what is respect for the others? If we really introduce this as a part of the education policy that has been done, it is really very encouraging. One of the most important, Ritik, how much time do I have? I don't know. Hello, Ritik.
Sir, we have time, sir. You can continue.
Okay. No, I don't want to bore them
No,
for
no, no,
more
sir.
time.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. Go ahead. So these are the basic principles on which our things are escaped. Another thing is language. Promoting Indian language formally has been envisaged or anticipated. No compulsion. Anticipated that knowledge up to the fifth standard should be in the mother tongue, preferably, or preferably up to 8th standard. But it's not mandatory. It's not compulsory, and you can take your own time to take a decision. See, what I did is when we start to try to study, although in English, our mother tongue remains as mother tongue. We think still in mother tongue. So that is a promotional thing that is now coming up in this Indian power of language in teaching and learning. Also, our old languages, whether it's Pali, Sanskrit, foreign languages, everything, we have underestimate the powers of the language. I tell you, language powers can be used as soft powers in all over the world. People are using it, and we need to develop these soft powers of either communication, language, social platforms, and this is probably what Kautilya is trying to spread. So that is a must. Another thing is there is no importance has been given in the present system to the lifetime skills. Why we need to teach communication skill in 13th or 14th year, or when you enter into college? Why they should not be incorporated at the early stage? Because these communication soft skills, or the life skills, I'll call them instead of soft skills, they could be communication, cooperation, teamwork, and resilience. When we are going to, we should study this at the early stage of our life, whether it is cooperation, whether it is respecting others, all the skill developments. People feel skill developments is it is restricted only to vocational skill, and it is connected to money. No, there are several skills that you need to inherit, need to learn from day one, so that when you're thrown at the global level, you can accept the challenges. There is no so that we'll never walk back from the global scene because we don't have. Another thing that is, I think, one of the biggest achievement of this is the present system education, a present evaluation system, where as to practically student has to vomit out what he has learned in during the year in 3. So it is not a summative evaluation that is being carried out. And what happens? The students do not have that skills, and who has the examination skills will be able to do better. Of course, they get exposed afterwards. That is it. So in the present system, there are several novel methods of education, novel methods of evaluation. In fact, there is a separate board, separate entity or the separate organ has been established just to go through its point of evaluation. How the evaluation should be done at the school level, college level, what are the methods? And the crux of the problem is we would like to know what the students know, and we don't want to know what the student doesn't know. So this critical distinction, evaluation, is students' ability in writing. Some people are good in writing, some people are good in talking. Why we should not be giving a different methods of evaluation to evaluate whether he knows something? Let's not follow the conventional way or the conventional examination, which are generally associated with fear and fever both. If you see the students entering into the examination hall today, as if they are entering into a lion's den or something like that. So these completely fear and fever with examination or the so-called evaluation systems have been completely is anticipated to be removed. Then comes the use of technology. You till January or February, we had never imagined that we will be able to do these courses or these kind of webinars with an ease. Technology dynamic. Let's thank to the technology, whether it is what platforms you use. But now even a school student can set up a meeting on Zoom, or this is really a technology. In IISER, we were using these technologies for earlier also. So there was not much, this is not a new thing. See now, the format in which it is taking this new technology has been wonderful. For example, there is an entry of reverse classroom. In conventional classroom, we just study and the student answer the questions at home as homework or anything of that. Instead of that, if the student study at home and come to the college or the institution for discussion, we have seen that that is a much, much better. Whether it is e-learning, whether it is a reversible classroom, this technology has really revolutionized everything, and that has been taken well care by the educational policies. This one. Second thing, it has shown a respect for the local context. In right now, from the schooling till the education, in pedagogy, policy, always keeping in mind that education is a concurrent subject, which we have thrown. For example, if in Kerala we are there, then there all the industries or the startups or the knowledge, why there should not be a course on coconuts itself or coconut industry or whatever. So these kind of respecting the local context has been done. Why coconut technology should be read by Delhi? If you want, if he has interest, it's well and good. But there is no doubt about it. So that needs to be taken for. Then there is a place for every student. There is a system, ecosystem is being developed where every student, whether it is school, college, or has a place. As I said, judging their abilities, that really takes care into this. Then most important is the teachers and faculty is the heart of the whole thing. I'll just go into some details at the end. We'll take care of proper recruitment, continuous professional development, positive working environments, and service conditions. If you improve their service condition, teacher, which are the pillars of the whole system, needs to be strengthened a lot by giving them encouragement, motivation, incentives, and what not. Continuous training. Nowadays, I see the take, especially with even due respect to the college teachers, whatever they are learned during their MScs and PhD, that's all. There are a something called continuous development or refresher courses, which according to me is unwilling teachers by the unwilling teachers to the unwilling students. It is taken a very, very formal stage, and there is no window is never opened of the modern science to this teacher. So this has been taken care in continuous development of the teachers. Most important is the regulatory framework. Right now, the framework on one side, there are too many agencies. If you want to get certain things done, for example, school recognition, there are several agencies which are responsible for doing this. So now that the educational authorities have been completely segregated with a specific goal given to. Let me take a example at say the school level, state level. State level, there's one education department or the school education department, and now that will be completely divided into 4 parts, and each part will be autonomous in taking that decision. First part, what we'll talk about is academics of the school or whatever it is. Second part is what should be the standards. Third part is the accreditation or the evaluation or this thing. And the fourth part will pay only attention to the administration of this. So these 4 have been segregated. So there is no mix-up now. Same level, this is for the higher education also at the at the top level. There's a Higher Education Commission of India. And again, functionally, there will be 4 different autonomous organs that have been created. One will look after the regulation. Second will look after the finance. Third will look after the accreditation. And fourth and most important is setting up of the standards. These 4 organs, since they're working independently, there's no power in somebody's hand which can be used for something. I don't want to name how it is done and what kind of power game is played, but that we'd like to. There are very, very clear-cut with the clear-cut affirmations. So there is no mix-up, nothing of that sort, and that is one of the most important aspects of this one. And every institution at the individual level will be given complete autonomy. Complete autonomy. It could be in academics, it could be in finance, it could be regulatory. You can design your own courses. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, no bother. You design whatever you want. There's no point. There is no restriction. You have to deal. And now slowly, since this affiliation business, which is acting to be one of the more hurdles, will be probably eliminated in our 15 years to come, and only strong institutions will come. I don't want to give numbers, but right now we have 40,000 colleges and 8,800 universities. It's proposed to have some logistic thinking law and creation of new 15,000 or 20,000, depend on this number, doesn't matter, institutions which are capable of imparting education, considering all the points that I have been mentioned now. At the higher level, we are running, as far as the higher education is concerned, we are completely learning right now on service economy. Mainly our GDP comes from service economy. And if they collapse, I don't know what is going to happen. So in order to drive that economy, which is a service economy, to knowledge basic, only way you can achieve is through the research. And this research should not be started at the level of PhD to start. So research has been made a part and parcel, high-end research. Of course, research doesn't mean that first time in Maharashtra, first time in my village, and so on and so forth. It is a global standard. So research has become considered to be a part and parcel of the whole game of education. From the day one, it may take a project. It may even at the school level, they'll be given 10 days or 15 days free. It's called fun hours. They can go, they can learn technique, they can do survey. So those elements of research are shown even at the earlier stage. We are losing the world bus mainly because our education system, there's no built-in or part research as a part and parcel of our education system, even at the graduation level. That is what we are lacking, and probably we are going to correct this along in this period. Second thing, as I said, continuous progress review is the one of the most important thing that is going to come out. There's no annual examinations, and this thing, rich, diverse, ancient, and our knowledge and pride of India will be taken care. And one of the aims, education is a public service. Right now, there is a completely division between the haves and have-nots in terms of education. And it is anticipated or envisaged to reduce this gap between the two and to find out what is happening at this level. So it must be considered as a basic right of every child to get the education what he wants or she wants. So that is one of the aims that is now coming up. And for doing this, what we need is substantial investment in a very strong, vibrant, and public education system. So it is envisaged that in another 10 years to come, 6% of our GDP will be spent on building of infrastructure, training of the students, right, right from the Anganwadi to the graduate or the postgraduate or the research level. 6% of the GDP has been will be assigned to create the infrastructure alone. Can be encouragement to the teachers and so on and so on. So if you take these basic policies or the basic policies that are being envisaged in this, I don't want to touch and give you more details on this because this will be given by somebody else. However, I am tempted to give you some subtle features just to give you, nothing else than that. And this will be, because I know I exceeded the time limit, still I would like to shape in few things. One, there is the new system of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. You can get many details in the school education. Why? Because the real 85% of the brain development, brain perspective is developed during the years of 3 to 6, and therefore the education has been extended, or the right to education has been extended not from the current 6 years to 3 years. Because when the total development is done in 3 to 6 years, certainly you need to include that in the framework of education. That is done. Some very subtle features, when the student enters into the first standard from the Montessori, our one of the gross enrollment nature fails there. And therefore, it is anticipated that between the playgroup or the Anganwadi or whatever it is, and when the child enters first standard, there's a 3 months training. 3 months anticipated training is given to the student before they enter the first standard. So these are some of the things. There is a fun courses and there is a preparatory courses to improve the dropout ratio. Assessments, I teachers, I have already talked about it. One of the reorganization that is anticipated in terms of regulatory is called school complex. Why we need school complex? Right now, about 1 lakh of schools are with one teacher. With one teacher, education is something which needs, although it is a right to education is for every child, in order to bring it to the effective and practical this thing, you need to integrate and establish the school complexes. So common infrastructures can be used. In Goa, they have started this to some extent. I don't know what level they are. They have established a so-called school or educational complexes where right from Anganwadi to the graduate, everything will be available. Does this mean, see, everything is a bad, this thing. Does it mean that the schools will be closed, private schools? No, they will be strengthened. They will be converted into a critical mass so that you can have the idea of teachers, labs, everything can be. So this convention of the school complex, that will come up. Then there are teachers, where the most hard part of the, especially school teachers, is the transfers, often transfer. That will be stopped. He'll be encouraged to be there in his own village or place so that he can do much better in terms of science, teaching, and so-called. I don't want to go into those details right now. In terms of higher education, the most revolutionary thing that is coming up is a single body to support the research called National Research Foundation. Anybody can apply to National Research Foundation. No bars, no age bars. Only the bar is the technical justification or the eligibility to do the research capabilities. So now this is a single-handedness. Second is all the universities will be, or the institution, now they'll not be called as universities to start with. All the institute will be multidisciplinary universities at the global level, including, say, present IITs or those level, who will accept the basic global challenges. This will be one where the most stress will be on the research. Cluster 2 or type 2 universities will have a hybrid structure of research and education. And the third type of institution will mainly cater to the education with a simple flavor of research. So there is no question of evaluation will come in another 15 years' time. You can start your own course. If you pass out, it will be a total flexibility. Pass out first year, get a certificate. Second year, diploma. Third year, degree. Could be 3 years, could be 4 years. Every institute can have their own challenges because they are autonomous. If their courses are good, students will join. So like that, since we are losing the sense of affiliation, this is all possible. Another thing that is coming up is public, private universities of the institutions will be at par. At say that is one of the attempts to remove the difference between the haves, have not, independent, self-government, autonomous, this thing. Another thing is, can we attract the foreign students? Internationalization. Right now, our international students are mainly from Gulf countries or from, say, Taiwan or those countries. Can we really attract the student from all over the world at global level in all the faculties, not only Indology and arts faculties? And can we get those kind? Can we get the campuses done here? Can the Indian students go abroad? Can the Indian institutes go abroad to start their camps? So internationalization is one of the most important thing. Vocational skills, I have already talked. One more thing I would like to talk about, the last perhaps, is the adult education. National Institute of Open Schooling technology, everybody should be in a position to learn, to study whatever they want, irrespective of the sex, education, level, age, region, personal capabilities, physical capabilities, or the incapabilities, whatever it is. He should be in a position to accept the challenges of education. To sum up, I just read out, I could not grab that, which is a buzzword, is holistic and multidisciplinary education. I just read out. Multidisciplinary education with aim to develop all capacities of human beings, intellectual, aesthetic, social, physical, emotional, moral, in an integrated manner. Such an education will help develop well-rounded individual that possesses critical 21st century capabilities across the arts, humanities, language, science, social engagement, soft skill, and so on and so forth. If you really, if we are really successful in attempting all those things, what is ultimate aim? Ultimate aim is we should appear. I don't want to give numbers in the first 500 of the universities. That should be just an offshoot. We should be in a position to impart Indian education based on our cultural heritage, our societal heritage, and so on and so forth. So if we try to implement this, I think this is the successful implementation of this policy will take us India to a new height. And on my personal note, if you really follow that, then sometime the Nobel Prize that has eluded us from C.V. Raman's Nobel Prize in 1930, if we do undertake research on the Indian problems, on the Indian soils, by the Indian scientists, that Nobel Prize will be a golden day in the history of Indian education. And I'm sure I am waiting for it. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. It was indeed an enlightening lecture, sir. You have taken us all to the roots of the educational system, and I'm sure that all the participants are now very much clear about the foundations of national education policy. Thank you so much, sir.
Are there any questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have received several questions.
Yeah.
One by one, we will take the questions. The first question is, what are the possible hurdles in implementation of the national education policy?
In one sentence, should I tell? People may think money. No. It is the change of mental orientation. This is a major hurdle, because we are going to, I say, I don't want to use that word demolish, but we are going to completely reform the system. And according to Newton's first law, you are not changed unless another is acted by an external force. So that change of attitude, mental orientation, acceptability, tolerance, these are the qualities that need to be inculcated, and that is the most biggest challenge to this. It is not in terms of availability of teachers. It is not in terms of availability of infrastructure, which can be certainly done with the question of mental orientation, losing their own empires, and so on and so forth. So this, I feel, is the biggest challenge in the implementation of NEP.
Thank you, sir. Sir, another question is, can implementation of National Education Policy 2020 stop the brain drain from India?
I'm completely sure. My answer is yes. I'll give you an example. It's a small example still. when the IISER started in 2006 or somewhere, people were saying, oh, you are going to produce PhDs, which will go abroad and then you lose them. Now, in all IISER, there are more than 1,000 faculty members who have studied abroad for minimum 6 to 7 years they were abroad. And they have come back to work on the Indian soil. So this is a small example of brain gain. And as the policy will make available many avenues open in India itself, I am sure the people who have gone abroad or going abroad will certainly come back, and this will stop. The current rate, I don't say I can stop the complete brain drain. I don't want to call it brain drain. I'll call it internationalization, as I suggested, and we'll be able to make it we'll try to make up for our deficit. That much I can assure you, because the more avenues will be open. Yes.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is, what inclusions or inputs shall be amended further in order to improve or excel our overall research curriculum or overall research academics?
Yeah, I'll turn toward the research first. First thing is, research will be made as a part of any graduation system, formally and informally in the school education. Elements of research, I can say. Every degree holder will have a component of research during this. So these kind of inputs will certainly improve. So research at the earliest stage. Second, encouragement to the research in the form of National Research Foundation will enhance and will certainly catalyze to bring our Indian research at the global level. I'm sure there's no problem. And excel our overall research curriculum. There is no research curriculum per se. Research cannot have a curriculum, but research academics. So if you follow these two implementation, we'll be able to, these are the steps that we need to take.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question is, it's really very interesting question. Is this national education policy, whether this national education policy will bring the rural and urban students at par or at the same level?
Yeah. This is a good question, and I indirectly answered this question also earlier. Since all the education curriculum will be reformed and will bring up to the one level, number one, in terms of syllabus, they will be at par. In terms of major content, there can be a content for the rural areas which are adoptable, which is necessary in that area. So that kind of flexibility will bring them into the par. Secondly, there will be complete same norms will be applied to private and public institutions. Since these two private and public institutions, there will be no difference, not at all, in terms of autonomy and all other things. As I said, the difference between haves and have-nots will come. Of course, it will take time, as I said, because we are bound by a mental framework which needs to be broken.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is, should we include traditional weapon training as a module in schools?
Why not? In Kerala, there are several ways of self-defensing. Why not they don't need to be included? Why not they should be included in as a part of curriculum, as I said, in the vocational training, sports, drama. In Kerala, it could be something. In UP, it could be something different. Why not? And it will be included because one thing, it is our knowledge and it is essential. So certainly this module is being taught and will be certainly included in the new score.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question pertains to the orientation teachers. So how teachers, the teachers working will get the orientation about this new policy? Will government arrange for the private schools some orientation programs or some training programs?
One thing is sure, that government knows 100%. It has Kasturungan committee has taken into consideration the present generation of teachers, maybe above 40 or 45 or these kind of teachers. They will be suitably accommodated in the new structure. Okay, looking into their various capabilities, there will be a training. There will not be any private schools. Will the government arrange for private schools? I don't know what you mean by private school. This question has been asked by Abha Ajay Tailang. I don't know what you mean by private schools, but certainly I take this as a training to the teachers, and it will be certainly it is going to help you out. There is no doubt about it. And these teachers will be trained by the experts. There will be even a program train the teachers or the trainers, which will further train. So there is a complete chain of coaching has been organized or will be organized.
Yes, thank you, sir. Sir, the last question pertains with how should the states prepare for qualitative implementation of the national education policy?
Yeah, you are right. There's a clear cut, as I said, regulatory authorities. There is no confusion at all. What is to be decided at the state level and what should be decided at the central level. As I said, school education, education at the school level in the state has been completely segmented into 4 organs, which look after the academic standard, evaluation, finance, and so thing. And they will directly interact, not with the school authorities in the call, but corresponding authorities at the center dealing with it. So there is less of bureaucracy has been envisaged. So because everybody knows that theoretically school education has become a state subject where you have to enter into new arena. The confusion right now you have is if you want to start a college, who will start? Who will give the final permission? I was counting. There are more than 500 signatures are required to clear this. That is because that has not been properly, the regulatory authorities have not been properly. One more thing, the whole regulation or the regulatory authorities are very tight. So a lighter side, they say, it is a tight but light organization. And this has been clearly demarcated between the state and the center, and the coordinations will certainly happen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The last question, sir. How shall we develop a practical module for ethics to rate teachers as well as students?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate in our country that we had to teach ethics. In our conventional system or the thing, these ethics are taught at home, respect others and all other ethics. It's really unfortunate that we have to teach ethics, but as the situation goes on, we need to teach them. And if you have to teach them, we need to design a course in ethics that has been already being brought in place, and the experts will do. Even for that matter, some parents can be involved to teach ethics. Why not? There is a provision. If you don't have expert in the school or local college, small college, you can call anybody from the village who is expert in this. You don't have to restrict to the framework of grade and all that. You can pay them. There is a provision. There is a system. You call them master experts and bring them. A better carpenter in the schools can be brought. A better experts whom you think can teach ethics, communication skill can be brought in. So it has been thought that ethics will be also for the teachers and training will be really taken care by the again experts in that particular area. But it could be a local person, preferably local person, because the world ethics also changes to some extent area wise also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It
Hmm.
was really very enriching and enlightening
I'm
session.
sure I have overstepped the times as usual, but that is my weakness. Because that is
No, sir.
this
No, sir.
no, this topic is my passion. So
Yes, sir.
I
It was.
generally.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hmm,
Thank you so much, sir.
hmm,
Now, I would like to propose vote of thanks. We are glad to have partners like Center for Educational and Social Studies and media partners like News Bharati. And on behalf of Kautilya Center for Public Policy, I would like to thank Center for Education and Social Studies and News Bharati. I would like to express my gratitude towards our esteemed guest, Professor Dr. Natu sir. Thank you very much, sir, for explaining us the concepts and foundations of national education policy. I would like to thank Dr. Sachin ji, convener of the webinar, and the team of Kautilya Center for Public Policy for organizing the unique webinar. And I would like to thank all the enthusiastic participants for making the webinar successful. Tomorrow, we will take further the discussion and discourse on national education policy. Session 2 will be focusing on structural insights, talking about policy at surface. Dr. Padmavati BS ma'am will guide us. Ma'am is convener of subcommittee to task force on implementation of national education policy in Karnataka, and she is director of Center for Education and Social Studies. See you all for the tomorrow's session at 6:30. Link will be shared with the participants. Thank you once again, everyone. Thank you, Natu sir. Thank you,
Praful,
Kautilya.
I would like to attend tomorrow's session. Will you please send me the link?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Why not?
Hmm?
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much, sir.